Hey there, welcome back. Before we start, just a quick note. This episode features a synthetic narrator and AI-generated visuals for storytelling purposes. Today, we're going to talk about something that feels simple in theory, but so many of us quietly struggle with: setting boundaries without guilt. If you've ever said yes when you wanted to say no, or kept giving just to keep the peace, you're not alone. For a lot of us, guilt shows up the moment we try to protect our time, our energy, or even our peace of mind. But here's what I want you to know from the start. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. And those doors can stay open to kindness, to connection, to love, while still keeping you safe. So today, let's talk about how to set boundaries in a way that feels natural, healthy, and guilt-free. First, let's understand why guilt shows up. Let's start with the why. Why do we feel guilty for something that's actually good for us? For many of us, guilt is a learned response, something that got wired into us early on. Maybe you grew up in a family where love was tied to being helpful, agreeable, or self-sacrificing. Maybe you learned that saying no made you selfish or unkind. So now, when you try to put yourself first, it feels like breaking an invisible rule. But guilt doesn't always mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt just means you're doing something new. Think of it like building a muscle. When you start setting boundaries, it feels uncomfortable because your emotional yes muscle has been overused and your no muscle hasn't been trained yet. That tension? That's growth. Boundaries don't make you cold. They make your warmth sustainable. What boundaries actually are? Let's clear something up. Boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're about teaching people how to treat you by showing what you can and cannot accept. A boundary might sound like, "I can't talk right now, but I'd love to catch up later." "I'm not available for that project, but I hope it goes well." Or even, "I need some space to think before I respond." Notice how none of those are rude or harsh. They're simply honest. A healthy boundary communicates respect for both sides, for you and for the other person. It says, "I value this connection enough to be real with you." Boundaries are clarity, and clarity is kindness. Next, the hidden fear behind guilt. Let's talk about what's really under the guilt. For most people, the fear isn't about saying no. It's about losing love, approval, or connection when they do. You might think, if I set a boundary, they'll think I don't care. If I say no, they'll be disappointed. If I pull back, they'll leave. These thoughts are so human, but here's the truth. Any relationship that depends on you ignoring your needs to survive isn't truly balanced. Real connection can handle honesty, and the people meant for you will not vanish when you start showing up as yourself. So the next time guilt starts whispering, pause and ask, is this guilt because I did something wrong, or because I'm learning to do what's right for me? Most times, it's the second one. So, how to set boundaries gently, step by step. Let's get practical for a moment. Here's a simple framework you can use to set boundaries without guilt, drama, or fear. Step 1. Know your limits. Before you can communicate boundaries, you need to know where they are. Ask yourself, what drains me? What energizes me? When do I start to feel resentment or overwhelm? Resentment is often a sign that a boundary has been crossed or never set at all. Step 2. Communicate calmly and clearly. Use simple, neutral language. You don't have to justify, over-explain, or apologize. For example, instead of, "I'm so sorry, I just can't handle this right now," try, "I don't have the bandwidth for this right now." Calm, brief, and kind is the goal. Step 3. Expect discomfort. Even when you do it right, setting boundaries can stir emotions, in you and in others. That's okay. Discomfort is not danger. You're simply teaching people a new way to interact with you. Step 4. Stay consistent. If you bend every time someone pushes your limit, your boundary loses its power. Consistency is how you teach others to take you seriously, and how you teach yourself that you can trust your own voice. Step 5. Self-soothe the guilt. When guilt shows up, try this. Put your hand on your heart and say, I'm allowed to take care of myself. This is not selfish. It's self-respect. That gentle affirmation rewires the old programming. When others don't like your boundaries. Let's be honest, not everyone will applaud your new boundaries. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries might resist at first. They might test, guilt trip, or question your decisions. But remember, their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to your peace, your mental health, and your authenticity. If someone only loves you when you're convenient, that's not love, that's control. Healthy relationships actually get better when boundaries are clear. There's less guessing, less resentment, and more respect. And sometimes, yes, you will lose people, but you'll gain yourself. And that's a trade worth making every single time. Turning boundaries into self-love. Let's zoom out for a moment. Boundaries aren't just rules you set with others. They're also promises you make to yourself. When you set a boundary, you're saying, I will not abandon myself to make others comfortable. That's what real self-love looks like. Not just affirmations and bubble baths, but honoring your limits even when it's hard. Over time, you'll start to notice something powerful. People respect you more. You respect yourself more. And your relationships begin to feel calmer, more balanced, and more genuine. Because when you show people that your peace matters, you invite them to rise to that level too. Closing thoughts. So if you take one thing away from today, let it be this. Boundaries aren't barriers. They're bridges. They connect your truth to the world in a way that's sustainable and kind. And you don't need to feel guilty for choosing yourself, because choosing yourself is how you show up fully for others. Start small. One no at a time. One pause before saying yes. And celebrate each moment you honor your energy. That's healing in motion. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, or share it with someone who's learning to set boundaries too. You never know who needs to hear that it's okay to say no. You're doing better than you think. And I'll see you in the next one.